Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Gardener. So in today's video I wanted to talk a little bit about the root and the stem. A lot of times when you have a stem rot, you have to cut the stem until you don't see any browning. Now a lot of times what happens is that people start to panic, because I remember last time I was speaking to someone on Instagram and the person had a stem rot and I had to tell him to cut the stem. Now every time he cut the stem, I could still see some browning on the stem, and you have to cut the stem until you do not see any browning on the stem. Now I could understand with the tone of messages, the person was like, are you sure I'm supposed to cut the stem so much? I was like, yes, because even if you're going to leave a small little portion of the dark spot inside the stem, the rot will continue to spread, so you have to cut. Now for that matter, you might end up cutting the stem completely, like you can see over here, and that's exactly how it looked for the person that I was chatting with, and he had to cut the entire stem. So this is how it looked. Now guys, you do not need to be worried. The roots will still appear as long as there is a piece of stem available. Now how you can avoid this is basically you have to do a routine check once in 2 weeks, once in 3 weeks. As I said, the earlier you notice the stem rot, the much better it is, because if you're going to cut it off at the early stage, you might still have a little bit longer piece of stem. But it's absolutely okay. At times we forget to check, or at times the rot tends to spread really fast and you have no other option. So you will have to cut until you don't see any of those brown spots. Now over here, this is not browning from the rot, but this is basically the dried. Once it callus, it tends to look like this. But now you can see there are a lot of multiple roots showing up on this cut. So even if you have a very small piece of stem like this, it's absolutely okay. The succulent will start to root once the stem is completely callous. Now again, there is no time frame when the roots will appear. It all depends upon the succulent and your environment. Another important thing guys, this is what I have noticed from my experience. The process of rot or the rot spreading also depends upon your environment a lot. For example, I am from a very dry environment. In my city, what I have noticed is, in case if my succulent starts to rot from overwatering, which is quite rare, but it happens during the monsoon season, in case if there is any rot in my city, because my environment is very dry, the rot tends to spread a little bit slow as compared to people who are from a high humid environment. So there is a little bit of difference. The rot will spread faster for people who are from a very humid environment, or people who have a lot of moisture in the air. For them, the rot is going to spread much faster as compared to people who are from a very dry environment. This is something that I have noticed over the period of time, talking to people from different places. This is what I've noticed. So that is one thing you need to keep in mind. Now you can see my succulent is doing quite well, but it is starting to get dehydrated because it needs water. The roots are already present, so I have to go ahead and put it into the soil, which I'll do in some time. So the most important thing is that you keep a watch in case if you happen to see any stem rot. Cut it then and there. Do not wait for the next day. It might be too late. Depending upon your environment, depending upon your climate, you will have to go ahead and cut it off, and then you have to keep this piece in a dry place until it completely callus, which it takes around 2 to 3 days, and post which you have to still either keep it on the top layer of soil, or you can keep it on a dry surface until the roots appear. You can put it into the soil once the callus period is over, but you cannot water it until and unless you do not see any roots. Because remember guys, if there are no roots, the succulent cannot absorb that water, and the moisture in the soil can further damage the stem, which can lead to a rot. So yes, you will have to keep cutting the stem until you do not see any of those browning. If you're going to leave even a little bit of brown, then that will start to spread again. So at times you might end up with no stem at all, like this in this case, which is absolutely okay. What's important is to get rid of that rot, and eventually they will start to root. Again, it's going to take some time. I do not have a exact time frame for it. So now let's put this guy. This is an elegans, Haworthia elegans. So I'm going to put it into the soil. So we have our soil mix ready over here, which is again the same mix that I tend to use for all of my succulents. 80% of aquarium sand and 20% of filtered garden soil. As you can see, the roots are already present on my succulent. We'll just take it, make a little bit of dent. That's about it, and just place the succulent, and you can just push the soil a little bit at the sides. Now that's about it. We are going to be keeping this guy in indirect bright light, no direct sunlight at all, in a place where there is a good amount of air circulation. You can see a couple of wrinkles on the lower leaves, which is absolutely okay. The succulent will survive. We do not need to water it right away because we have just potted the succulent. We do not want to disturb the succulent right now. Probably after 5 days I will go ahead and water it. I will definitely make a shorts video so that you can get a proper idea of how I'm going to be watering it. So probably 5 days from now I will be going ahead and watering it, and you will also get a fair idea of how the succulent looks after 5 days. It's not going to die. So that's all about it, guys. It's pretty simple. If you have cut off too much of the stem, no worries, the roots will appear. All you have to do is just ensure that you're not watering the succulent until and unless you don't see roots. If you are going to water or apply moisture, there are chances, I'm not saying that it will rot, but there are chances it will rot because there are no roots. So ensure you wait until the roots appear, only then go ahead and water it. So now I'm going to keep this aside, wait for another 5 days, and then do a complete watering. I will show it to you in my next video once 5 days happen to pass. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.